The ship moved through the darkness of space like a small fish swimming through an endless ocean. Captain Hyun Park stood at the window of the Aurora Rising and watched the stars pass by. He had been a captain for 15 years, but he had never seen anything like what waited ahead. The Galactic Assembly Station was the largest thing ever built. It was bigger than most moons. Thousands of ships flew around it like insects around a bright light. Species from 12,000 different worlds lived and worked there. And for the first time in 50 years, humans had been invited to the central chamber. "Captain, we are receiving the docking codes now," said Lieutenant Hannah Bake from her station. She was a serious woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "But something is strange. They are giving us priority clearance. That level is usually for council members only." Hyun turned away from the window. "Priority clearance? Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. I have checked 3 times. Dr. Soo Kim looked up from her tablet. She was the ship's expert on alien cultures, and had spent her whole life studying the species of the assembly. Her face showed confusion. "This does not make sense. Humans are considered one of the youngest species. We have only been part of the assembly for 50 years. They treat us like children at a grown-up table. Why would they suddenly give us such importance?" Ambassador Tae Yoon walked onto the bridge. He was young for a diplomat, only 32 years old, but he had a calm way about him that made people trust him. "I received a message from Elder Vorath himself. He said the council has voted on something important, something about humanity. He wants us there immediately." "Elder Vorath? Doctor?" Sue's eyes went wide. "He is the oldest member of the council. Some say he has lived for over 100,000 years. He has never spoken to a human directly before." The ship docked at the station without any problems. When the doors opened, Hyun expected to see the usual busy crowds of aliens going about their day. Instead, he saw something that made his stomach feel cold. The aliens were afraid. A group of tall, blue-skinned beings moved away from the humans as they walked past. Their eyes were wide, and they whispered to each other in their own language. A small creature with many legs actually ran in the other direction when it saw them coming. "Why are they looking at us like that?" Hannah asked quietly. Her hand moved toward her weapon, out of habit. "I do not know," Hyun said, "but keep your hands where they can see them. We do not want to make this worse." They walked through the station's long hallways. Everywhere they went, the reaction was the same. Aliens stopped talking when they passed. Some bowed their heads, others looked at them with what could only be described as terror. Ambassador Tae stopped when he saw a familiar face. It was Delegate Mira, an insect-like being with large eyes and thin antennae. She had been friendly to humans since they first joined the assembly. She was the closest thing they had to a friend among the alien species. "Mira," Tae said gently, "what is happening? Why is everyone acting this way?" Mira's antennae trembled. Her voice was a soft clicking sound that their translators turned into words. "You do not know? Oh, you poor creatures. You really do not know." "Know what?" Mira looked around nervously, as if she was afraid someone would hear her. "The council has finally voted. After 50 years of debate, they have made their decision." "Decision about what?" Dr. Soo asked. "About whether to tell you. About whether you deserve to know." Mira's whole body was shaking now. "They are going to tell you what you are." Before anyone could ask more questions, a loud voice echoed through the hallway. "Human delegation, you will follow me to the central chamber. The council is waiting." The voice belonged to a tall, reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes. He wore the armor of the council guard. Without another word, he turned and started walking. The humans had no choice but to follow. Dr. Soo moved close to Hyun as they walked. "Captain, I tried to access the Assembly's records about Earth before we arrived. Everything is classified. The highest level of restriction. I have never seen anything like it." "What does that mean?" "It means that the Assembly has secrets about humanity. Secrets they have been keeping from us. And from the way everyone is acting, these secrets are not good." The central chamber was at the very heart of the station. The doors were made of a metal that seemed to glow with its own light. They were carved with symbols that Dr. Soo did not recognize, and she knew the writing systems of over 300 species. The doors opened slowly, revealing a room so large that clouds actually floated near the ceiling. In the center of the room sat 12 figures in a half-circle. These were the Council Elders, the oldest and most powerful beings in the known universe. Each one came from a different species. Each one had lived for thousands or even millions of years, and every single one of them was staring at the humans. Elder Vorath sat in the center. No one knew what species he was. His body was hidden under dark robes, and only 2 bright lights could be seen where his eyes should be. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder and whispers at the same time. "Humans of Earth," Vorath said, "you have walked among the stars for only a short time. You have smiled at us. You have traded with us. You have called us friends." He paused. The silence was so heavy that Hyun felt like he could not breathe. "But there are things you do not know. Things we have hidden from you. Things we have hidden from ourselves. Because we were afraid." Vorath leaned forward, and his eyes seemed to burn brighter. "The time for hiding is over. The time for fear is over. You must learn the truth." Ambassador Tay stepped forward. His voice was steady, but Hyun could see his hands shaking slightly. "What truth, Elder Vorath? What is it that you have been hiding from us?" Vorath looked at the other council members. Some of them nodded. Others looked away, as if they could not bear to watch what was about to happen. "The truth," Vorath said slowly, "about what humanity really is. The truth about where you came from. And the truth about why every species in this galaxy has been dreading this moment since the day your first ship left Earth." The chamber fell silent. Hyun felt his heart beating hard in his chest. He looked at his crew, at Tae, at Dr. Su, at Hana. They had come here expecting a simple diplomatic meeting. Instead, they were about to learn something that would change everything. And from the fear in the eyes of the most powerful beings in the universe, Hyun knew that whatever they were about to hear would change not just humanity, but the entire galaxy forever. Elder Vorath raised his hand, and the chamber became quiet again. The humans stood waiting, their hearts beating fast with anticipation. But instead of revealing the truth, Vorath shook his head slowly. "The full revelation requires another vote," he said. "There are some among us who believe you should never know. We must discuss this further. Until then, you will wait in the guest quarters." Ambassador Tay stepped forward. "With respect, Elder Vorath, you cannot bring us here. Tell us there is some great secret about our species, and then ask us to simply wait." "I can," Vorath replied, "and I will. Guards, escort the humans to their quarters. They are not to leave until summoned." The walk to the guest quarters was silent. The humans were surrounded by armed guards who kept their weapons ready, as if they expected the humans to attack at any moment. When they finally reached the quarters, the doors closed behind them with a heavy sound. "This is madness," Hana said. She paced back and forth across the room like a trapped animal. "They treat us like prisoners. What crime have we committed?" Captain Hyun sat down heavily in a chair. "They are afraid of us. Did you see their faces? Even the council elders, beings who have lived for millions of years, were afraid to look at us." Dr. Su was already working on her tablet, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. "I am trying to access the Assembly's archives again. There must be something, some record, some document that explains what is happening." "You said everything about Earth was classified," Tae reminded her. "Yes, but there are other ways. I am looking for any mention of the word that Delegate Mira used. She said they would tell us what we are. That means there is a category, a classification, something that describes humanity that we do not know about." Hours passed. The humans took turns sleeping, but no one could rest for long. The weight of the unknown pressed down on them like a heavy blanket. Finally, in the middle of the station's artificial night, Dr. Su gasped. "I found something," she whispered, "a word that keeps appearing in the oldest records. Precursors. It is mentioned thousands of times. But every document that contains this word is locked behind the highest security. Precursors? Hyun repeated. What does that mean? In our language, it means those who came before, the first ones. Lieutenant Hana had been monitoring the station's communication channels with a small device hidden in her uniform. Captain, I have been picking up encrypted messages between council members. That same word appears again and again. Precursors. They are arguing about whether to tell us something about the precursors. We need more information, Tae said. Dr. Su, is there anyone on this station who might help us? Anyone who could access these classified records? Dr. Su thought for a moment. The archivists. They are a small group of beings who maintain the oldest records of the Assembly. They have access to documents that even council members cannot see. There is one archivist I have met before. His name is Pell. He is curious about humans. He might be willing to talk. Sneaking out of the guest quarters was easier than they expected. The guards were focused on keeping threats out, not keeping the humans in. Dr. Su led the way through back corridors and maintenance tunnels until they reached a small, dusty room filled with ancient storage devices. Archivist Pell looked like a large owl with 4 arms. His feathers were gray with age, and his eyes were huge and yellow. When he saw Dr. Su, he made a soft hooting sound. Dr. Kim, I wondered if you would come. He looked at the other humans with curiosity and fear mixed together. You want to know about the precursors? Tuan 7. Teep. Teep. Yes, Dr. Su said. Please, Archivist Pell. The Council is keeping secrets from us. Secrets about our own species. We have a right to know. Pell's feathers ruffled nervously. What I am about to tell you, I could be executed for sharing, but I have always believed that knowledge should be free. He took a deep breath. Knowledge. Millions of years ago, before any of the current species existed, there was a civilization so powerful that they ruled the entire universe. They were called the Precursors. What happened to them? Hyun asked. They fought a war, a terrible war against an enemy they called the Hollow. This war lasted for thousands of years and killed almost every living thing in the universe. 99% of all life was destroyed. Pell's voice dropped to a whisper. The Precursors won, but at a terrible cost. After the war, they simply vanished. All records of them were erased. Why would you erase records of a civilization that saved the universe? Tae asked. Pell's huge eyes seemed to grow even larger. That is the question, is it not? We did not erase the records because they were dangerous. We erased them because we found out where the precursors went, and what we discovered was too terrible to let anyone know. A loud voice echoed through the archive room. There you are. The humans turned to see Counselor Dren standing in the doorway. He was a tall reptilian with dark green scales and eyes that burned with hatred. Of all the council members, he had opposed humanity's inclusion in the assembly the most strongly. You should not be here, Dren hissed. You should not be learning things that do not concern you. Everything about our own species concerns us, Captain Hyun replied, standing tall despite the fear in his chest. Dren laughed, but it was not a pleasant sound. Your species. You still think you are just another young race finding its way among the stars. You walk among us with your smiles and your handshakes, completely unaware of the extinction event sleeping in your blood. What does that mean? Hana demanded. It means, Dren said slowly, stepping closer, that every time one of you shakes hands with an alien, that alien wonders if this will be the moment you remember. The moment you wake up, the moment you become what you truly are and burn the universe all over again. Before anyone could respond, a loud alarm began to sound throughout the station. Pell rushed to one of his ancient devices, and his feathers stood straight up in shock. Something has activated in the deep archives, he said. A precursor artifact. It has been dormant for millions of years, but now it is awake. What activated it? Dr. Su asked. Pell turned to look at her, his eyes filled with wonder and terror. You did. The moment you entered the archives, it sensed your presence. It has been waiting for you. They ran through the corridors, following Pell to a section of the station that had been sealed for longer than recorded history. The doors were covered in dust and strange symbols. As they approached, the symbols began to glow with a soft blue light. The doors opened by themselves, revealing a small room with a single object floating in its center. It was a crystal, about the size of a human hand, and it glowed with inner light. As Dr. Sue stepped closer, the crystal pulsed, as if it recognized her. "Do not touch it," Dren warned. "You do not know what it will do." But Dr. Sue could not stop herself. Something deep inside her, something she could not explain, told her that this crystal held the answers they needed. Her hand reached out, and her fingers touched its smooth surface. The crystal exploded with light. Images flooded Dr. Sue's mind, images of a civilization beyond anything she had ever imagined. She saw cities that floated among the stars. She saw beings of incredible power and beauty. And then she saw Earth, a small blue planet, with a single word written above it, in a language she somehow understood: home. The hologram that appeared from the crystal showed the Earth spinning slowly in space. And underneath it, words appeared in the same ancient language. "Project Genesis," Dr. Sue translated, her voice shaking. "Seed world, for the preservation of the precursor race. Status: awaiting awakening." The silence that followed was absolute. The humans stared at the hologram, understanding slowly dawning on their faces. Counselor Dren backed away from them, his scales pale with fear. "Now you know," he whispered. "Now you understand why we are afraid. You are not just another species. You are them. You are the precursors. And you are beginning to wake up." Dr. Sue fell to her knees, her mind overwhelmed by the flood of images from the crystal. Captain Hyun rushed to her side, holding her steady as she gasped for breath. The hologram of Earth continued to spin above them, casting blue light across their faces. "What did you see?" Hyun asked urgently. "Dr. Sue, talk to me. What did the crystal show you?" "Everything," she whispered. "I saw everything. The precursors at the height of their power. Their cities, their ships, their worlds, and the war." Her voice broke. "The terrible war that destroyed almost everything." The crystal pulsed again, and a new voice filled the room. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Descendants detected. Identity confirmed. Awakening protocol initiated. "I am the Watcher, guardian of the final message." A new hologram appeared beside the spinning Earth. It showed a figure made entirely of light, humanoid in shape but with no features on its face. Commander Jin Woo, who had been silent until now, stepped forward with his hand on his weapon. "What is this thing?" he demanded. "Some kind of artificial intelligence?" "I am what remains," the Watcher replied. "When the precursors knew they would not survive, they created me to wait, to watch, to preserve their final hope until the time was right." Ambassador Tae moved closer to the glowing figure. "Tell us the truth. All of it. What are the precursors? And what do they have to do with humanity?" The Watcher was silent for a moment. Then, the hologram changed, showing a vast civilization spread across millions of stars. The precursors were the first intelligent species to arise in this universe. For billions of years, they grew in knowledge and power. They could bend space and time. They could create life with a thought. They became so powerful that they believed themselves to be gods. "What happened to them?" Hana asked. "Pride," the Watcher answered simply. "In their arrogance, they decided to transcend the limitations of physical existence. They created an experiment to transform themselves into beings of pure energy. But the experiment failed. Instead of transcendence, they created something else, something terrible." The hologram shifted to show a darkness spreading across the stars. It was not empty space. It was something alive, something hungry, something that consumed everything it touched. "The hollow," the Watcher said. "A mistake born from ambition. It fed on life, on energy, on existence itself. It spread across the universe, destroying everything in its path. The war lasted for 10,000 years. When it finally ended, 99% of all life had been extinguished. Dr. Sue had recovered enough to stand. But the precursors won. They stopped the hollow. Yes, but victory came at a cost they could not bear. They looked at what they had done, at the universe they had nearly destroyed, and they were filled with shame. They realized that they could not be trusted with their own power. The Watcher paused. So they made a choice. What choice? Hyun asked. They chose to forget. They stripped away their memories, their abilities, their very identity. They encoded everything they were into their genetic structure and placed themselves on a quarantined world where they would slowly evolve again from the beginning. They hoped that when they finally returned to the stars, they would have learned wisdom. They would have learned to be better. The hologram showed the Earth again, but this time it showed the planet millions of years ago. Small, primitive creatures walked on its surface. Earth, Tay whispered. We are the precursors. We are them, devolved into primitive forms and starting over. Correct. The Watcher confirmed. Humanity is not a young species taking its first steps among the stars. Humanity is the oldest species in existence, sleeping in a cocoon of forgetfulness, waiting to remember who they truly are. The door to the archive room burst open, and a group of aliens rushed in. They were dressed in flowing robes covered with ancient symbols, and at their head was a being that looked like a tall, graceful creature with silver skin and 4 eyes. She fell to her knees the moment she saw the humans. The prophecy is fulfilled, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. The sleeping gods have awakened. I am High Priestess Yara, of the Order of the First Light. We have waited 1,000,000 years for this moment. Her followers also knelt, their heads bowed low. Commander Jin looked at them with confusion and discomfort. What is this? Why are they worshipping us? Because we remembered, Yara said, looking up with tears in her 4 eyes. When the Council erased all records of the precursors, our order preserved the truth. We knew that the creators would return someday. We knew that the children of the gods would find their way back to the stars. Counselor Dren pushed his way into the room, his scales flushed with anger. This is exactly what we feared. Do you see now why the Council wanted to keep this secret? Already, cults are forming around you. Already, the galaxy is being thrown into chaos. We did not ask for this, Tay said firmly. We did not know any of this until today. It does not matter what you asked for, Dren replied. What matters is what you are. The precursors nearly destroyed everything. Their power was so great that they burned the universe, and now that same power is sleeping inside every human being, waiting to awaken. The Watcher's hologram flickered. The awakening has already begun. The genetic locks that have kept humanity dormant are starting to fail. With each generation, more of the old abilities will return: telepathy, telekinesis, the power to manipulate matter and energy with thought alone. As if to prove the point, a young woman stumbled into the room. She wore the uniform of an Earth ship's crew, and her name tag read, Ensign Mina Ko. Her eyes were wide and frightened, and her hands were shaking. Captain Park, she gasped. Something is happening to me. I can hear thoughts. I can see things that have not happened yet. I touched a metal table, and it bent without me pushing it. Everyone in the room stared at her. High Priestess Yara smiled with joy. Counselor Dren backed away in fear. The Watcher simply observed, its formless face giving nothing away. The first of the new generation, the Watcher announced. The awakening spreads. Soon, more will follow. Captain Hyun stepped forward and put a steadying hand on Ensign Mina's shoulder. It is going to be all right, he said, though he was not sure he believed it himself. We will figure this out. Tay turned to the Watcher. You said the precursors hoped their descendants would learn wisdom. You said they wanted us to be better. But you have not told us everything. What exactly did our ancestors do that made the whole galaxy afraid of us? Why does everyone look at us like we are monsters waiting to be born? The Watcher was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was heavy with ancient sorrow, because the precursors did not just fight the hollow. In their desperation to win, they committed acts that still haunt the collective memory of every species. They destroyed entire star systems to slow the Hollow's advance. They sacrificed billions of innocent lives as bait to lure their enemy into traps. They became as terrible as the thing they fought. The Watcher's hologram showed images of planets burning, of species screaming in terror, of the precursors wielding power beyond imagination, with cold, merciless efficiency. The galaxy does not fear humans because you might become powerful, the Watcher said. The galaxy fears humans because they remember what the precursors were willing to do to win. They remember the sins of your ancestors, and they wonder if you will repeat them when the power returns. The room fell into heavy silence. The humans looked at each other, seeing themselves in a completely new way. They were not just explorers. They were not just diplomats. They were the inheritors of a legacy written in the blood of countless innocent beings, and somewhere deep inside each of them, that terrible power was beginning to stir. The news spread across the station like fire through dry grass. Within hours, everyone knew that the humans were the descendants of the precursors. Within a day, the entire galaxy was in panic. Captain Hyun stood in the communication center of the guest quarters, watching the flood of messages coming in from every corner of known space. Some were prayers from beings like High Priestess Yara, begging the sleeping gods to remember their faithful servants. Others were threats, promising destruction if the humans did not surrender themselves immediately. Admiral Dae Shin is on secure channel, Lieutenant Hana reported. He says it is urgent. The holographic image of Admiral Dae appeared in the center of the room. He was an older man, with gray hair, and a face that had seen many battles. He commanded Earth's defense fleet, the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Captain Park, the Admiral said without any greeting. I assume you have seen the news. Yes, sir. The whole galaxy knows. The whole galaxy is mobilizing. I have received reports of 17 species gathering their war fleets. They are heading toward the assembly station. Their intention is clear. Ambassador Tay stepped forward. They want to destroy us before we fully awaken. Correct. The Council has lost control of the situation. Councillor Dren has been broadcasting messages to every world, calling for immediate action against humanity. He is telling everyone that if they do not strike now, while we are still weak, we will burn the universe just like our ancestors did. Commander Jin slammed his fist against the wall. This is insane. We have done nothing wrong. We did not even know about any of this until yesterday. It does not matter what we knew, Dr. Su said quietly. It matters what we might become. They are afraid of our potential, not our actions. Admiral Day nodded grimly. I am bringing the entire Earth fleet to protect you. We will arrive in 18 hours. But I must warn you, we are badly outnumbered. If all those species attack at once, we cannot win a conventional battle. Then what do you suggest? Hyun asked. Before the Admiral could answer, Ensign Mina suddenly cried out. She had been sitting in the corner, trying to control the strange new abilities that kept emerging inside her. Now her eyes had turned completely white, and her voice came out in a strange, echoing tone. They are coming, she said. Not just the aliens. Something else. Something old. Something that has been waiting in the darkness between stars. The Watcher's hologram appeared beside her. She speaks the truth. My sensors have detected a disturbance at the edge of the galaxy. The Hollow. It was never completely destroyed. A fragment of it has survived in hiding for millions of years. Waiting. Waiting for what? Tay asked, dread filling his voice. For this. For the precursors to return. The Hollow was created from the precursor's own power. It is drawn to that power like a moth to flame. Now that humans are awakening, the Hollow has sensed it. It is coming to finish what it started. The room fell silent. The situation had just become infinitely worse. Not only did they face the combined fleets of the galaxy, but the ancient enemy of their ancestors was also on its way. How long do we have? Hyun asked. Unknown. The Hollow exists partially outside normal space. It could arrive in days or hours. Admiral Day's hologram flickered. I am pushing the fleet to maximum speed. We will be there in 12 hours. Hold on until then. The connection ended, leaving the humans alone with their thoughts. Dr. Sue returned to the ancient crystal, hoping to find more information. The Watcher hovered nearby, answering her questions with patient detail. You said the precursors became terrible during the war, she said. Tell me more. I need to understand what they did. What we might do if we are not careful. The Watcher's formless face seemed to turn sad. During the war, the precursors made difficult choices. When the Hollow invaded a populated system, the precursors often destroyed the entire system, sacrificing everyone who lived there to prevent the Hollow from growing stronger. They called it necessary. They called it the mathematics of survival. They killed innocent people to win, billions of them, trillions, by the end. The precursors believed that victory justified any cost. They became cold, efficient, ruthless. By the time the war ended, they had become almost as empty as the enemy they fought. Dr. Sue closed her eyes, feeling the weight of this inherited guilt pressing down on her. Is that why they chose to forget? Because they could not live with what they had done? Yes, the shame was unbearable. They hoped that by starting over, by evolving again without those memories, their descendants might find a different way. A better way. In another part of the station, Counselor Dren was recording his message to the galaxy. His face filled screens on thousands of worlds, his voice reaching trillions of ears. Citizens of the Assembly, he said, his scales glistening under the harsh lights. The threat we have always feared is now upon us. The precursors have returned in the form of humanity. They pretend to be innocent. They claim they did not know, but the power that burned the universe is awakening inside them. And if we do not act now, history will repeat itself. He paused for effect, letting his words sink in. I call upon every species, every world, every ship that can carry a weapon. Come to the assembly station. Help us end this threat before it can grow. The precursors showed no mercy when they fought their war. We must show no mercy now. The survival of everything depends on it. Back in the human quarters, Lieutenant Hanna reported the broadcast. The mood grew even darker. They were trapped on a station that was about to become a battlefield, surrounded by enemies who saw them as monsters. Ensign Mina approached Captain Hyun. Her eyes had returned to normal, but she still looked shaken. Captain, I can feel it now. The power that is waking up inside me. It is incredible. I could do things I never imagined possible. That power frightens everyone, Hyun said gently. Including me. It frightens me too, Mina admitted. But I have also seen memories. When I touched the crystal, I saw not just the war, but the time before. The precursors were not always cold and ruthless. They were curious. They were kind. They built the first great civilizations and helped younger species grow. They only became terrible because they were afraid. Afraid of the Hollow, afraid of losing, afraid of extinction. Fear made them forget their values. Fear made them become the thing they hated. Mina looked at Hyun with determination in her eyes. We do not have to make the same mistakes. We can choose differently. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the station. The screens showed a dark shape emerging from folded space at the edge of the system. It was massive, bigger than a planet, and it radiated wrongness that made everyone who looked at it feel sick. The Hollow had arrived. At the same time, the first alien war fleets appeared, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. Hundreds of ships from a dozen species, all with their weapons charged and pointed at the station. Counselor Dren's voice came over the public channel. Citizens of the Assembly, the time has come. The Hollow approaches because of the humans. Destroy them now, and perhaps the Hollow will return to its slumber. This is our only chance. Captain Hyun looked at his crew. They were scientists and diplomats, not warriors. But in their eyes, he saw something unexpected. Not fear. Determination. The Council wants to sacrifice us to save themselves, Hyun said. The Hollow wants to consume everything. Everyone is acting out of fear, just like our ancestors did. Ambassador Tay nodded slowly. Then we must be the ones to act out of something else. If we use the awakening power to destroy our enemies, we prove them right. We become the monsters they fear. What choice do we have? Commander Jin asked. Dr. Su looked up from the crystal, her face illuminated by its soft glow. The Watcher told me something else. The precursors left a final message, hidden until their descendants were ready to hear it. A message that was supposed to guide us when this moment came. What does it say? I do not know yet. The crystal is still unlocking it. She turned to Ensign Mina. But I think you might be the key. Your awakening is further along than anyone else. If you can access the full memory. Mina nodded, understanding. I will try. She placed her hands on the crystal, closed her eyes, and reached deep into the genetic memories that were stirring inside her. The crystal blazed with light so bright that everyone had to look away, and in that light, the truth began to emerge. The light from the crystal filled the room like a small sun. Ensign Mina stood at its center. Her body lifted slightly off the ground. Her eyes blazing with the same ancient light. Images flooded outward from her mind, visible to everyone in the room. They saw the precursors as they once were. Not cold warriors, but dreamers and builders. They saw them creating the first gardens of life on barren worlds. They saw them teaching young species how to reach for the stars. They saw a civilization built on wonder, not war. And then they saw the mistake. The experiment that created the hollow. They saw the fear that spread like a disease through the precursor civilization. They saw good beings make terrible choices because they believed they had no other option. Finally, they saw the end. The precursors, broken and ashamed, standing before the last of their great councils. An ancient figure, not unlike Elder Vorath, spoke to them in a voice heavy with sorrow. We have won, the Ancient One said, but we have lost ourselves. We became the darkness we fought. Our children deserve better than what we have become. What shall we do? Another asked. We shall sleep. We shall forget. We shall give our descendants a chance to grow without our sins poisoning their hearts. And when they finally awaken, we shall leave them a message. Not instructions for war, not weapons for destruction, but an apology, a confession, and a hope. The vision faded. Mina lowered gently to the ground, her eyes returning to normal. Tears streamed down her face. I understand now, she whispered. I know what they wanted us to see. Outside the station, chaos erupted. The Hollow had begun its attack, not caring about the difference between human and alien. Dark tendrils of anti-existence reached out, touching ships and stations and making them simply cease to be. The alien war fleets that had come to destroy humanity found themselves fighting for survival instead. Admiral Day's voice crackled over the communication system. Earth fleet has arrived. What are your orders, Captain? Hyun looked at his crew. They had a choice to make. The power of the precursors was awakening inside all of them now. He could feel it himself. A warmth in his chest that promised incredible abilities. They could use that power to fight. They could burn their enemies just like their ancestors did. But that was not why the precursors had sacrificed everything. We do not fight to destroy, Hyun said quietly. We fight to protect. Dr. Su, what did the final message contain? Dr. Su pulled up the data that had transferred from the crystal during Mina's vision. Her eyes widened as she read. It is all here. The precursors spent their final years developing a way to permanently destroy the Hollow. They never used it because they died before they could. They preserved the knowledge for us, hoping we would be wiser than they were. Can we use it? Yes. But it requires a combined effort. Many ships, many species, working together in perfect coordination. One group alone cannot do it. Ambassador Tay understood immediately. They did not just leave us a weapon. They left us a lesson. The precursors tried to do everything alone, and they became monsters. They want us to do it differently. They want us to unite the galaxy, not conquer it. Counselor Dren's ship was under heavy attack from the Hollow. His weapons were useless against the dark entity. His shields were failing. In moments, he would be consumed like so many others. All channels, Hyun ordered. Open broadcast to every ship in the system, human and alien alike. His face appeared on screens throughout the battlefield. Alien commanders who had come to destroy him were now watching with confusion as he spoke. This is Captain Hyun Park of the Earth ship Aurora Rising. I know you came here to destroy us. I know you fear what we might become. You have every reason to be afraid. Our ancestors committed terrible sins. They burned the universe in their pride. He paused, letting his words reach every ear. But they also left us something: knowledge. Not just the power to destroy the hollow, but the wisdom to understand why they fell. They became monsters because they fought alone. They believed that strength meant never needing anyone else. They were wrong. On the screens, the hollow continued its rampage. Ships from a dozen species were being destroyed. The end seemed inevitable. I am sharing the precursor data with all of you now. Not as a trick, not as a trap, as a gift. This information shows how to destroy the hollow forever. But it requires all of us working together. Humans cannot do it alone. Neither can any of you. Dr. Su transmitted the data to every ship in the system. For a long moment, nothing happened. The alien commanders stared at the technical information appearing on their screens. They ran analyses. They checked for deception. Counselor Dren's voice came through the channel. His ship was moments from destruction. This could be a trap. They could be trying to lower our defenses. If we wanted to destroy you, Mina said, her voice carrying strange power. We could. The power of the precursors flows through us. We could burn your fleets with a thought. But we choose not to. We choose to be better than what we came from. The question is, do you? Another alien voice joined the channel. It was Delegate Mira, the insect-like being who had been friendly to humans since the beginning. I believe them. My species remembers the kindness of the precursors before the war. That kindness is still there, sleeping in human hearts. I will join them. Her ship broke from the attack formation and flew to join the human vessels. One by one, other ships followed. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years found themselves fighting side by side. The formation the precursors had designed began to take shape. Even Counselor Dren, his ship battered and failing, made a choice. If I die today, he said grimly, let it be fighting the true enemy. All ships under my command, join the formation. Arkamani. The combined fleet moved as one. Human ships, alien vessels, former enemies, and forgotten friends. They surrounded the hollow, each ship contributing its energy to the ancient pattern. Ensign Mina stood at the center of the Aurora Rising, channeling the awakening power through the ship's systems. The other humans did the same, each one contributing what little ability they had developed. The energy built and built, growing beyond anything the hollow had ever faced. Final sequence initiated, Dr. Su announced. All ships, release energy on my mark. The hollow sensed the danger. It had survived for millions of years by hiding, by waiting, by striking only when it was certain of victory. Now it tried to flee, but the combined fleet had surrounded it completely. Now, light exploded from every ship simultaneously. The energy flowed together, forming patterns that had not been seen since the ancient war. The hollow screamed, a sound that echoed through dimensions that normal beings could not even perceive. And then, for the first time in cosmic history, the hollow died. Not driven back, not forced to retreat. Completely and utterly destroyed. The silence that followed was profound. Ships floated in the empty space where a galaxy-eating horror had existed moments before. Commanders who had been trying to kill each other hours ago now shared the same stunned disbelief. Elder Vorath's voice came through the communication system. He sounded older than he ever had before, but also somehow lighter. It is done. The ancient enemy has fallen at last. And it was not the precursors alone who achieved this victory. It was all of us. working as one. In the days that followed, the Galactic Assembly gathered for the first time since the crisis began. The central chamber was filled not with fear, but with cautious hope. Humans walked among the other species, and this time, no one backed away in terror. Elder Vorath addressed the assembly from his ancient seat. For millions of years, we feared the return of the precursors. We believed that when they awakened, they would bring destruction and fire, just as before. We were wrong. He turned to look at the human delegation, where Captain Hyun, Ambassador Tae, Dr. Su, Lieutenant Hana, Commander Jin, and Ensign Mina stood together. The precursors burned the universe in their pride. Their children saved it in their humility. They had the power to destroy us all. And instead, they offered healing. They could have conquered, and instead they united. Let no species forget this day. Let no species forget this truth. It is not what we were that defines us. It is what we choose to become. Hake, Ambassador Tae stepped forward to speak. The awakening will continue. More humans will develop the old abilities in the years to come. This frightens many of you. And honestly, it frightens us too. But we make this promise. We will never use this power for conquest. We will never use it for destruction. The precursors left us their knowledge so we could protect, not dominate. High Priestess Yara approached the human delegation. Her 4 eyes were filled with tears of joy. The prophecy spoke of the sleeping gods awakening. But it also spoke of a choice. The old gods fell because they forgot that power must serve life, not rule it. You have remembered what they forgot. You have become what they hoped for. Counselor Dren was the last to speak. He walked slowly toward the humans, his scales showing the wounds he had suffered during the battle. I spent decades hating you, fearing you, working to destroy you. I was wrong. He bowed his head low. I ask for your forgiveness. Captain Hyun reached out and helped the old reptilian stand straight. There is nothing to forgive. You acted out of fear for your people. We all understand that kind of fear. What matters is that you chose differently when it mattered most. The assembly voted unanimously to recognize humanity not as a threat, but as full partners in the galactic community. The old restrictions were lifted. The classified files were opened. For the first time, the complete history of the precursors was shared with every species. Months later, Ensign Mina stood in a new facility on Earth, surrounded by other humans who had begun to awaken. She had become a teacher, helping others control and understand the ancient abilities emerging inside them. The power is incredible, she told her students. With enough practice, you will be able to do things that seem like magic. You will be tempted to use this power for easy solutions, for quick victories, for personal gain. That temptation is the same one that corrupted our ancestors. She looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth, the world where the precursors had chosen to sleep and dream of a better future. But we are not our ancestors. We carry their power, but we do not have to carry their sins. Every time you face a choice, remember what they hoped for us. Remember that strength without wisdom is just another form of weakness. And remember that the galaxy is watching, hoping that we will prove them right to believe in second chances. Captain Hyun visited the facility before returning to the stars. He found Mina in the garden, watching the sun set. You know, he said, when this all started, I was just a ship captain doing his job. Now I am part of an ancient legacy I never asked for. None of us asked for it, Mina replied. But it found us anyway. What will you do now? Hyun looked up at the stars, which were just beginning to appear in the darkening sky. Keep exploring. Keep making friends. Keep proving that humanity is more than the sum of our ancestors' mistakes. He smiled. The galaxy is a big place. Someone has to show them what humans can really be. The stars shone down on Earth, the same stars that had watched the precursors rise and fall. The same stars that had witnessed the burning of the universe and the long sleep that followed. Now they watched a new chapter begin. The inheritors had awakened. Not to conquer, not to destroy, but to heal, to unite, and to finally fulfill the hope that had been planted in the human soul millions of years ago. The council had spent ages dreading this moment. In the end, their fear gave way to something much more powerful: hope.